don't trust her. And the reason I don't trust her is because I think she knew better. I don't think she deserves to be promoted.
We will do whatever's necessary to block the nomination that's within our power as far as Susan Rice is concerned.
I don't think we're doing very well in the UN, quite frankly.
In the spotlight tonight, President Obama is not going to let Republican Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham stop him from nominating whoever he thinks is the best candidate to be his next Secretary of State.
Senator John McCain and Senator Lindsey Graham both said today that they want to have Watergate-style hearings, and said that if you nominate Susan Rice to be Secretary of State, they will do everything in their power to block her nomination.
She made an appearance at the request of the White House in which she gave her best understanding of the intelligence that had been provided to her. If Senator McCain and Senator Graham and others want to go after somebody, they should go after me. And I'm happy to have that discussion with them. But for them to go after the UN ambassador, who had nothing to do with Benghazi, and was simply making a presentation based on intelligence that she had received, and to besmirch her reputation is outrageous. But when they go after the UN ambassador, apparently because they think she's an easy target, then they've got a problem with me. And should I choose, if I think that she would be the best person to serve America in the capacity of the State Department, then I will nominate her.
After the president's news conference, Senator Graham immediately responded with this released statement. Mr. President, don't think for 1 minute I don't hold you ultimately responsible for Benghazi. I think you failed as commander-in-chief before, during, and after the attack. Given what I know now, I have no intention of promoting anyone who is up to their eyeballs in the Benghazi debacle. Joining me now is Jim Frederick, Time Magazine's international editor, and MSNBC's Karen Finney, former DNC communications director. Jim, is the UN ambassador up to her eyeballs in the Benghazi debacle, as Lindsey Graham would put it?
No.
I mean, is she up to her toenails? Is she in it at all?
She had nothing to do with this.
There's that.
If there was any judgment error involved, there was a question of, why was she on the morning programs talking about something that wasn't really in her lane? A lot of the things that she has been described as saying, that this was a spontaneous uprising, if you go back and look at what she said, she didn't actually say that. What she said was that the spontaneous uprising was used as a cover for a concerted attack. So a lot of the things that are being put into her mouth, she didn't actually say, but it's interesting that this is being used as a political scalp by the Republicans who want somebody to blame for Benghazi. It is unfortunate that Susan Rice, who has a long and distinguished career and is a qualified Secretary of State candidate, would be held out to be pilloried in this way. I think it's worth noting that the Republicans probably don't have enough votes to get in the way of a nomination, and I think it's also interesting that Obama, he really is happy that this election is over, because I've never seen him quite so forceful or genuinely outraged in quite some time. So,
have we ever used? Has any senator ever used a standard like this on a possible Secretary of State nomination before, that nominee may have at some point said something on TV that they disagree with and cannot prove one way or the other?
Yeah, I mean, she might have had a bad day, but this does not disqualify her from being Secretary of State. And there were intelligence failures after intelligence failures after intelligence failures when Condoleezza Rice was up for a similar position, and Democrats made some noises about getting in the way of her nomination, but they ultimately voted her in. So to answer your question, no, not that I'm aware of. Has any nomination actually been blocked based on something like this?
Karen Finney, my theory of the case is they really want Scott Brown back in the Senate. What they're trying to do is block Susan Rice so that the president will then go to John Kerry, which he may be his first choice anyway, but that he will go to Senator Kerry, opening up that Senate seat in Massachusetts to an election about 150 days after that opening occurs.
If that's true, then attacking Susan Rice is quite disgusting behavior. And I just want to clarify a couple of points, because I've actually known Susan since the Clinton administration, and this is quite offensive what they're doing here. There was intelligence available. Somebody had to go out. She went out based on the intelligence. And as Jim said, when you go back and you look at what she said, she did caveat that based on what was known at the time. And it was, these two men, as you point out, who supported another Dr. Rice for Secretary of State, who had basically gone around misleading us about weapons of mass destruction. They certainly didn't seem to have a problem with that. And in this case, Susan was actually giving the intelligence that even Condi Rice herself has said it is complicated and hard to know as things are unfolding, where things are going to shake out. The last point I want to make, though, if we are going to talk about anybody's behavior in this, I'm so infuriated by this, is, Jason Chaffetz and Darrell Issa, who both, with their incompetence, have not only outed a CIA operation that was a covert operation, which perhaps they don't really care about that, but they've also endangered the lives of Libyans who were working with us. So if we're going to go that way, then let's look at their behavior.
And Karen, just on the politics of it, if these guys are trying to steer the nomination to Massachusetts Senator John Kerry so that the seat opens up, so that they can get Scott Brown back in the Senate, it seems like the technique they're using as of today is almost forcing the president's hand on Ambassador Rice. It's almost the kind of thing that makes him say, well, OK, that tips it. I'm definitely going with Ambassador Rice.
That's right. I mean, that certainly was my read of his tone. And I got to tell you something. I think the president is fully aware that if those men want to have that fight attacking this woman, let's do it. Let's go there. I mean, that is a good fight for him to have. It also outs them right off the block that they have no intention of working with this president to get anything done.
Jim Frederick of Time and Karen Finney, thank you both for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, more on John McCain and Lindsey Graham, Susan Rice, Condoleezza Rice, and Sarah Palin. They're all in the rewrite. And later, America's most famous juggler, Penn Jillette, will teach David Petraeus what he should have known about juggling.